The diplomatic station harmony's edge hummed with nervous energy. As representatives from two worlds prepared for their historic first meeting, Kalen Thorne adjusted his communications headset. For the dozenth time, fingers trembling slightly as he ran final checks on the translation matrices. As a mid-level engineer, he shouldn't even be here among the dignitaries, but someone had needed a backup communications specialist, and somehow his name had been drawn from the roster. He pressed himself against the curved wall of the ceremonial hall, trying to remain invisible among the sea of human diplomats in their formal navy blues. The hall itself was a marvel crystalline walls that shifted between transparent and opaque, designed to accommodate both species' aesthetic preferences. Holographic displays floated overhead, cycling through welcome messages in dozens of languages. "They're arriving," whispered Commander Vale, the human delegation leader, her voice carrying across the communications channel. The great doors at the far end of the hall began to iris open, and Callan's breath caught in his throat. The Nixran delegation entered with fluid grace, their movements synchronized like a deadly dance. Each warrior stood tall and proud, their pale blue skin seeming to glow under the hall's ambient lighting. But it was the figure at their center who made Callan's heart skip entirely. Ambassador Taliri of House Nixara moved like liquid starlight given form. Her ceremonial armor, intricate plates of what looked like crystallized moonbeams, hugged her tall, elegant frame perfectly. Crimson curls cascaded over her shoulders, a striking contrast against her ethereal blue skin. Her face was sharp and beautiful, with high cheekbones and eyes like twin galaxies. She carried herself with the confidence of someone born to command. Yet there was something else, a hint of curiosity in the way she observed the assembled humans. Kalen had studied the briefings, knew that Nixran society was built on warrior nobility, that their women often held positions of supreme authority. He knew Taliri was considered one of their most formidable diplomats, equally skilled with blade and word, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of her presence. As the delegation moved through the hall, Taliri's path brought her mere feet from where Kalen stood. He could see the intricate patterns etched into her armor, smell the exotic fragrance that seemed to emanate from her skin like ozone after a storm mixed with something floral and utterly alien. His engineer's mind tried to catalog details, but his heart was racing too fast for logic. She was magnificent, terrifying, perfect. Lost in his admiration, Kalen forgot where he was, forgot about protocol and proper behavior. The words slipped out before he could stop them, barely above a whisper, but filled with genuine wonder. "She's perfect. I wish I had a wife like her." The moment the words left his lips, Callan's blood turned to ice. Several human diplomats glanced his way with annoyed expressions, but they clearly hadn't heard his exact words over the ambient noise of the ceremony. But Taliri had stopped walking. She turned slowly, those galactic eyes scanning the crowd until they found his. For a heartbeat that felt like eternity, human and Nixran stared at each other across the diplomatic divide. Her expression was unreadable, not angry, not amused, but something altogether more complex. Her head tilted slightly, and Kalen could swear he saw the ghost of something like surprise flicker across her features. The moment stretched between them, electric and impossible, until one of her honor guards stepped closer, and she turned away. But as the delegation continued their formal procession, Kalen caught her glancing back over her shoulder, those starlight eyes finding his once more before she disappeared into the crowd of dignitaries. Standing there in his modest engineer's uniform, heart hammering against his ribs, Kalen realized that his quiet, unnoticed life had just become infinitely more complicated. He'd whispered to no one, but somehow, he'd been heard by the one person in the galaxy he should never have dared to notice. The ceremony continued around him, but all Kalen could think about was the way she'd looked at him, not with the dismissive glance he'd expected, but with something that felt dangerously close to recognition. The observation deck on level 7 was supposed to be deserted at this hour. Kalen had come here to escape the suffocating formality of the diplomatic quarters, seeking solace among the stars visible through the massive transparent aluminum viewport. He'd been staring at the swirling nebula beyond for nearly an hour, trying to process what had happened during the ceremony. "Your people have a saying about curiosity and cats, do they not?" Kalen spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. Ambassador Taliri stood in the doorway, no longer wearing her ceremonial armor. Instead, she wore flowing garments of deep purple that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Without the formal regalia, she looked more approachable, though no less magnificent. Ambassador, he stammered, immediately dropping into an awkward bow. I didn't expect. I should leave, stay. The single word carried quiet authority. She moved closer, her bare feet silent on the deck plating. I sought you out, Kalen Thorne. He blinked in surprise. You know my name. I know many things. She approached the viewport, standing close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her alien skin, including the fact that you believe I am perfect. Heat flooded Callan's cheeks. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. I didn't mean for you to hear, but I did hear. Taliri turned to face him, and in the starlight streaming through the viewport, her eyes seemed to hold galaxies within them. Do you know what your words meant to me? Kalen shook his head, not trusting his voice. For 3 cycles, I have sat in councils where I am addressed as Your Excellence or Noble Ambassador. I am treated as a symbol, a representation of my house and my people's power. Even among my own kind, I am seen first as duty incarnate. Her voice carried a note of weariness he hadn't expected. But you looked at me and saw something else entirely. I saw you. Kalen said quietly, just you. Something shifted in her expression, a softening that transformed her alien features into something achingly beautiful. Tell me about your world, Kalen Thorne. Not the diplomatic reports or cultural briefings. Tell me what it feels like to be human. For the next hour, they talked. Kalen found himself describing Earth's seasons, the way rain felt on human skin, the taste of chocolate, and the sound of ocean waves in return. Taliri spoke of Nixra's twin moons, the singing crystals that grew in their mountain caves, and the ritual dances performed under aurora-painted skies. On my world, she said, settling gracefully onto one of the observation deck's benches, strength is everything. We are raised to be warriors first, individuals second. But here, talking with you, I remember what it feels like to simply be. Kalen sat beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. It must be lonely, carrying all that responsibility. Loneliness is a luxury we cannot afford, Taliri replied. But her voice suggested otherwise. At least, that is what I believed. Until today, their eyes met again, and Kalen felt that same electric jolt from the ceremony. This time, neither looked away. This is dangerous, Taliri whispered. My people would not understand. Yours would see it as a security risk. Then why are you here? She was quiet for a long moment, studying his face in the starlight. Because for the first time in my life, someone has made me curious about what it might feel like to be chosen for myself, rather than for my title or my bloodline. Before Kalen could respond, the soft chime of an incoming message broke the spell. Taliri's expression immediately shifted back to diplomatic neutrality as she activated her wrist communicator. Ambassador, came a stern voice speaking in the melodic Nixran language. Your presence is required. Understood. She replied in the same tongue before deactivating the device. She rose gracefully, but paused at the doorway. Tomorrow evening, there is a cultural exchange in the recreation sectors. Perhaps we might encounter each other again by chance. After she left, Kalen remained on the observation deck until dawn, watching the stars and wondering if he'd just imagined the most impossible conversation of his life. But the lingering scent of alien flowers and ozone told him it had been very, very real. The cultural exchange was a carefully orchestrated affair, humans demonstrating their art forms, while Nixrans shared their musical traditions. Kalen lingered near the holographic displays, pretending to study human poetry while actually scanning the crowd for crimson curls and pale blue skin. When Taliri appeared, she was surrounded by her usual retinue of honor guards, but her eyes found his immediately across the crowded recreation hall. A subtle nod toward a side corridor was all the communication they needed. This is madness, she said when they met in a maintenance alcove 20 minutes later. The space was cramped, forcing them to stand closer than either had dared before. Complete madness. Kalen agreed, but neither of them moved away. They had begun meeting like this every few days, stolen moments in forgotten corners of the station. Each encounter deepened their connection, and each made the growing attraction between them harder to ignore. "Show me," Taliri said suddenly, reaching out with one elegant finger to trace the back of his hand. "Your skin is so different from mine." Callan's breath caught as she explored the differences between human and Nixiran anatomy. Her touch was electric, sending shivers up his arm. "Your hands are warmer than I expected," he managed to say. "Nixirans run hotter than humans," she explained, her voice dropping lower. "Our hearts beat faster too. Feel." She took his hand and pressed it against her chest, just above her heart, through the fabric of her flowing garments. He could feel the rapid rhythm, not frantic, but steady and strong and utterly alive. Her skin was indeed warm, almost feverish by human standards. "My people would call this weakness," she said, but she didn't remove his hand. "This wanting. What do you call it?" "I call it the first time I've ever felt truly alive." The space between them seemed to shrink until Callan could see the flecks of silver in her galaxy-colored eyes. "Taliri, I know." Her free hand came up to cup his cheek, her thumb tracing the line of his jaw with wondering gentleness. "I know all the reasons this cannot be. I know the consequences, but I cannot seem to make myself care about any of them when I am with you." When their lips met, it was with the hunger of two people who had been denying themselves for far too long. Her mouth was soft and warm, tasting faintly of something like cinnamon and starlight. She kissed him with a passion that spoke of warrior, training applied to more intimate pursuits, and Callan responded with all the longing he'd been carrying since that first moment. In the ceremonial hall, they broke apart only when the need for air became desperate, but neither moved away. Taliri rested her forehead against his, her breathing unsteady. "I want more," she whispered, the admission seeming to surprise her. "I want to know what it feels like to be touched as a woman, not as an ambassador. I want to learn every difference between us and find all the ways we are the same." Before Callan could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps sent them flying apart. Guard Captain Voss, Taliri's second-in-command, appeared at the mouth of the alcove. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes missed nothing. "Ambassador," he said in perfect English, his tone respectful but firm. "The Council requests your immediate presence." "Of course," Taliri replied, her diplomatic mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. She brushed past Callan without acknowledgement, but her fingers briefly squeezed his hand as she passed. Voss lingered for a moment after she left, his pale blue eyes studying Callan with uncomfortable intensity. "Be careful, human," he said quietly. Some fires burned too hot to be safely contained. Alone in the alcove, Callan touched his lips and tasted alien starlight, knowing that careful was the last thing he intended to be. The crisis came 3 weeks later. Ambassador Taliri's private quarters were supposed to be inviolate, protected by both diplomatic immunity and Nixiran honor codes. But when the Council of Houses decided that their ambassador was becoming too friendly with the humans, immunity became a secondary concern. Callan had arrived for their usual evening meeting to find Taliri pacing her quarters. Like a caged predator, her warrior training evident in every movement. The room itself was a fascinating blend of alien architecture and personal touches, crystalline furniture that seemed to grow from the floor, walls that displayed moving images of Nixiran landscapes, and the subtle scent of the exotic flowers she kept in carefully tended planters. "They know," she said without preamble when he entered. "Voss has been reporting our meetings to the High Council." Callan felt the blood drain from his face. "What does that mean?" "It means I am to be recalled to Nixara within the week, and you are to be transferred back to Earth immediately." Her voice was steady, but he could see the pain in her eyes. "It means they have decided that peace between our peoples is less important than maintaining the purity of Nixiran bloodlines. Then we'll be more careful." "No." She turned to face him, and the anguish in her expression stopped his words cold. "I am tired of being careful, Callan. I am tired of hiding what I feel. Tired of pretending that you are not the most important thing in my universe." She crossed the room in 3 fluid strides and kissed him with desperate passion, pouring weeks of restrained longing into the contact. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Make love to me," she whispered against his lips. "Let me know what it feels like to choose for myself, just once, before they take that choice away forever." "Taliri," he began, but she silenced him with another kiss. "I have spent my entire life in service to duty," she said, her hands beginning to work at the fastenings of his shirt. "Let me have this one night for myself, for us." There was no denying the want in her voice, the need that matched his own. When he kissed her again, it was with complete surrender to the impossible love that had grown between them. She led him to her sleeping chamber, where bioluminescent panels cast everything in soft, romantic light. Her alien garments whispered to the floor like liquid silk, revealing skin that seemed to glow with its own inner radiance. She was magnificent every inch, the warrior goddess he had first seen in ceremonial armor, but now completely, vulnerably his. Their lovemaking was a study in contrasts, her alien grace and his human passion, her warrior strength and his gentle reverence, the cool blue of her skin against his warmer tones. They explored each other with wonder and growing hunger, learning the geography of desire across species lines. "You are beautiful," she whispered as they moved together, her body arching beneath his with fluid grace. "My beautiful human." When release finally claimed them, it was with cries that needed no translation. Speaking the universal language of love transcendent, they lay entwined afterward, her head pillowed on his chest as he traced lazy patterns across her luminescent skin. "I love you," Kaylin said into the comfortable darkness, the words feeling both natural and revolutionary. "And I love you," she replied, her voice carrying wonder at the admission. What are we going to do?" Before he could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in harsh red, and the voice of Commander Vale echoed through the communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have received word of a military fleet approaching from Nixran space. This is not a drill." Taliri was already moving, reaching for her clothes with warrior efficiency. "They are not coming to recall me," she said, her voice deadly calm. "They are coming to ensure I never return home, to tell others about the possibility of human Nixran unity. Then we run," Kaylin said, grabbing his own clothes. "Where?" she asked, but her eyes already held the answer. There would be nowhere in known space to hide from the combined might of two suspicious governments, unless they gave those governments a reason to reconsider their positions entirely. The emergency council session was chaos, human diplomats arguing with each other, while Nixran representatives maintained stony silence. Fleet Admiral Pierce wanted to prepare for battle, while Commander Vale insisted on attempting negotiation. In the center of it all sat Ambassador Taliri, no longer the woman who had whispered love in the darkness, but every inch the noble warrior her people expected. Kaylin stood at the back of the room with the other support staff, watching the woman he loved prepare to sacrifice everything for duty. The approaching Nixran fleet had made their intentions clear. Taliri was to return home immediately for re-education, and all further diplomatic contact would be suspended indefinitely. "The Council of Houses has spoken," announced War Leader Thane via holographic transmission, his scarred features showing no emotion. "The ambassador has been compromised by human influences and must be cleansed of this contamination." "With respect, War Leader," Commander Vale interjected, "Ambassador Taliri has shown nothing but professional conduct. We know of her associations." Thane cut her off, his eyes finding Taliri's. "The bloodline of House Nixara will not be polluted by alien desires." That was when Kaylin made a decision that would change everything. "What if it doesn't have to be pollution?" he said, stepping forward from the support staff section. Every eye in the room turned to him, and he felt the weight of his civilization's attention. Fleet Admiral Pierce looked furious at the breach of protocol, but Kaylin pressed on. "What if it could be evolution instead, Engineer Thorne?" Commander Vale said sharply, "Return to your position immediately." "No," Taliri said, rising from her seat with fluid grace. "Let him speak." Kaylin moved to the center of the room, his heart hammering but his voice steady. "For generations, both our peoples have defined themselves by what makes us different. But Ambassador Taliri and I have discovered something remarkable. We're not as different as we thought." He looked directly at the holographic image of War Leader Thane. You call our connection contamination. I call it proof that love is the one force in the universe that transcends species, culture, and the fear of the unknown. You dare speak of love? Thane's voice was deadly quiet. I do, Kaelin replied, then turned to face Taliri. Because I love her, not as a symbol or a political opportunity, but as the remarkable woman she is, and she loves me for the same reason. Taliri stepped forward to stand beside him, her hand finding his. It is true, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Kaelin Thorne has shown me what it means to be valued for myself rather than my bloodline. Through him, I have learned that strength can come from vulnerability, that power can come from choice rather than birthright. This is an abomination, War Leader Thane snarled. This is the future, Taliri replied calmly. A future where our children, whether human or Nixran, are judged by their character, rather than the color of their skin, where love builds bridges, instead of fear building walls. Fleet Admiral Pierce stepped forward. Are you suggesting some kind of interspecies marriage? I am suggesting, Taliri said, her voice carrying the authority of a born diplomat, that love has already shown us the path forward. Kaelin and I are living proof that unity is possible. Let our bond become the foundation for lasting peace between our peoples. The room erupted in arguments, but War Leader Thane's voice cut through the chaos. The Council of Houses will never accept this madness. Then perhaps, said a new voice, it is time for new leadership. Everyone turned as Guard Captain Voss materialized via his own hologram. Speaking from the bridge of the approaching Nixran flagship, War Leader Thane, you are relieved of command by order of the Empress herself. Stunned silence filled the room as Voss continued. Her Majesty has been monitoring these proceedings with great interest. She believes that Ambassador Taliri's unconventional approach may be exactly what our peoples need. 6 months later, Kaelin stood in the same ceremonial hall where it had all begun, wearing formal dress that blended human and Nixran design elements. Beside him, Taliri was radiant in a gown that seemed to be woven from starlight itself, her crimson curls adorned with both earth flowers and Nixran crystals. The wedding ceremony was a masterpiece of diplomatic cooperation, human vows blended with Nixran bonding rituals, creating something entirely new yet honoring both traditions. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to witness this union that had already begun changing the face of interstellar relations. Do you, Kaelin Thorne of Earth, take this woman to be your partner in all things, through starlight and shadow, until the heat death of the universe claims you both? I do, Kaelin said, his voice steady and sure. Do you, Taliri of House Nixara, take this man to be your partner in all things, through starlight and shadow, until the heat death of the universe claims you both? I do, Taliri replied, her eyes never leaving his, as they kissed to seal their union. The assembled crowd erupted in cheers that echoed in multiple languages and frequencies, but Kaelin heard only the whisper of Taliri's voice against his ear. I love you, my perfect human, and I love you, he whispered back, my perfect wife. In the end, it had been a whisper that changed everything, not just for them, but for two entire civilizations, learning that love, not fear, was the force that would carry them to the stars.